When evaluating the performance of your campaigns, the first place you want to go is the Search Terms tab. This tab is going to show you all of the terms that customers typed in to Amazon's search bar before clicking on your ad. So you can use Sellozo's sort and filter options to just view data in a certain order or just a certain campaign or possibly ad group that you are looking to evaluate. So once you have a campaign filter on there, you can see all of the search terms in that campaign by scrolling below the graph. The things you want to look at when looking in the search term tabs are a few things. The first would be your impressions. Now, not all search terms are going to have a super high search volume, meaning it might be a pretty obscure term, and so people just aren't searching it that much, which is totally fine. However, there are cases where the search term should have a pretty high search volume. Say it's a more generic term like baby toys. And if you only have a handful of impressions for that term, you probably can tell that you're just not winning the bid very often. So knowing what your impressions look like is important because it's possible that your ACoS target is too low and you just cannot afford to bid high enough in order to get impressions with that ACoS goal. Another thing to look at is your conversion rate. So everyone is always asking what a good conversion rate is. This really varies per product, especially if you have a product where a lot of shoppers are window shopping. Say you're selling a jewelry item or something in the fashion space where customers might be clicking around a lot before actually determining what to buy. Those products will definitely have a lower conversion rate. You'll have to decide what a good conversion rate is for you. Ideally, you want to be maybe around 10 or 20%. If your conversion rate is really, really low for all of your search terms, it's likely that you're going to want to revamp your product listing. The biggest thing that affects conversion rate is how your product listing looks. Think about if your photos are good or if you have enough reviews. You might need to redo your product title and bullet points to include a wider variety of search terms. All of these things can really affect conversion rate. We have a pretty good video on it, so definitely check out our blog to see that video. Another thing you want to look at in the search term tab is the bid versus the average CPC on your top selling search terms. So how I do this is I go ahead and sort by PPC sales to put sales in descending order so we can see the top selling search terms at the top. And then I look at the bid and how it compares to the average CPC. If the bid is lower than the average CPC, it's likely that the optimizer has dropped that bid in order to get the ACoS down. Now you can also look at the PPC ACoS column to see what the current ACoS is for that individual search term and compare it to your target ACoS and make a pretty good estimate as to whether the system is calculating the ideal bid to be above or below where your average CPC is at. Now, if a search term is performing really, really well, you'll likely notice that the bid is much higher than the average CPC because the system is calculating that the ideal bid can be higher than the average CPC and it wants to drive more traffic to this search term.